Thanks. And Jeremy, a similar question, I think, for you. So you use data, or you help investors make decisions around clubs to acquire using data. Could you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, so what we've ended up doing is something slightly different. Our specialty is the sporting side, and that's what they call it in football. That means the footballing side rather than the sporting side, but the side outside of the actual transaction. So when it comes to helping investors with club acquisitions, we tend to leave the financial and legal due diligence and the forensic accounting to possibly people like you in the room who have got far more knowledge and experience on that side. What we do is what we call sporting due diligence. So it's essentially looking at what the club that's being bought is. What is it on the ground? Because often when you ask an investor, they'll say, yes, it's a distressed asset. Yes, it's a great, it's in a great market and the numbers look great. That's the one we're going to go for. That's a good value proposition. And then you say, well, do you know what you're buying? Do you know what the club is? Do you know what it does on a daily basis? Do you know what the internal workings of that are? And there's very little knowledge. Sometimes even from so when we've done this sporting due diligence for clients, we actually find that the current owners of those clubs don't know what their own club is, which I thought was hilarious. There was one club in the Netherlands, for example, that we looked at, where the owner, very smart owner, very knowledgeable in the market. But when we asked him about what his plan was for the club, he said, we're going to build a new training ground and we've allocated some money and we've got the land and we're going to build a training ground, 4 million euros, and we're going to build the best academy in the country. I thought, great. And his concept was, or his idea was, the Netherlands develops footballers. You've seen it with players in the Netherlands for years and years, and Ajax develop players and PSV. The country develops players. Therefore, we will take advantage of this fact. And we thought, well, is it though? Let's go and investigate that. Is that true? So what we did was, in effect, is we basically we took lots of different data points and we ended up with a heat map of the country. And we looked at all the different hotspots of player development. And we found that this particular geographical area of the country is an absolute black hole for player development. And therefore, we were able to go back to our investors and say, look, this club is being pitched as a perfect vehicle to build an academy, develop your own players and sell them in a player trading business model. That's not what the club is. It's not what the club is. If you want to do that, that's maybe a 10-year process where you build your own environment and you end up having your own kind of hothouse, place where your academy is the only one in the area that develops players. That's possible, but that's a long-term thing. If you want short-term return on investment from this club, it's a player trading club. It's never going to qualify for Europe unless you put hundreds of millions of pounds into it. It's going to be a club where you buy young players, bring them into the Dutch market, get them to play minutes, sell them to the Premier League or sell them to somewhere else. That's the business model. But it was really interesting to us that the club owner didn't know that that was his own environment in his own business model, and that's where he should be focusing. And obviously we were able to then say to our clients, that's what the club is. And they said, no, that's not for us. That's not what we were looking for. We were looking for something, with an academy, with a valuable academy where we could develop players. So just that one bit of data and just that one storyline and one kind of visualization of a country map with where all the players were and this kind of historical information was able to give that information to the client. So it can be really simple things. It can be really easy to tell stories, but some complex data, but some easy to tell stories using those data points. So yeah, as I say, sporting due diligence for us is more about what's on the ground, how the club runs. And you mentioned it before, Jordan, about salary efficiency, this kind of thing. For example, is the club currently overpaying for the performance of the players who are on the pitch? So we can take our on-pitch models that go into our scouting platforms, for example, marry those up with salary data, and then start to see whether teams are efficient. Are they a club that consistently underpays for talent? Maybe they've got some really good scouting staff there. Maybe there's a good market there for taking players. And once they get to that point where they're asking for the market rate for salary, that's the point where you might sell those on and start that process again. So yeah, lots of different ways of kind of analysing the club on the ground, but that's another way of doing things. And as I say, I'm sure that's transferable to to the businesses that the guys in the audience are in. Really looking at what's on the ground rather than just the overarching numbers. Is this a good value for money acquisition? Well, you don't really know that until you've delved into the real depths of the data. So.